Hello Redditors, welcome back to Tales Against Humanity. Now, let's get started. In today's episode,
modern problems require unconventional solutions. One of the things I enjoy most in my job is solving unusual problems with unusual solutions. For example, the company director wanted to be able to control a heating system remotely over a 4G connection. Obviously, you can't port forward over 4G without an extremely expensive SIM, so an alternative solution would be required. The heating system in question exposes an intuitive web interface on port 443. The problem was how to get this back to the boss laptop. I decided to solve the issue with my favorite cheap computer, a Raspberry Pi. The Pi runs a reversed SSH tunnel back to a server in the office, via a severely limited account lest the private key fall into the wrong hands somehow, and a systemd service makes sure it keeps running. I then wrote a simple batch script which runs Chrome configured with the correct SOCKS 5 proxy settings, and another SSH tunnel session. Double-click on the batch file and behold, heating system remote. Control is complete. Boss is happy, he can now check building temps and control ducts etc. from anywhere. Story 2. Does writing software to get around corporate security count? Years ago, I was writing software that integrated with third-party apps, one of which required an access key with a ridiculously short expiration time. My software would detect this, request a new key, and continue. But how to test it? The third-party app didn't have a test system, so we had to use live. Only one key at a time was allowed. Requesting a new one invalidated all others. If my test suite requested a new key, other developers would be running requests with an expired key and their test suites would fail. Worse, this key had to be used in production, too. That's right. Running a test suite could break production. I was not happy. So I wrote code to store and update the key, along with a locking mechanism to prevent you from requesting a new key if one had already been issued. It was all nicely black boxed and worked great, but where to store the data? I requested a Redis server be set up so every developer could access it. Security said no. Redis was not approved software because security somehow thought this would be dangerous to open up their firewalls to allow this traffic. Head/desk, but I found a solution. Every developer had already installed. Drumroll, please, Dropbox. So I grabbed a Dropbox module off the cpan. If your key was stale and you were running tests, your test suite would simply pull Dropbox until your Dropbox updated. Turns out this worked because these keys were invariably refreshed almost instantly. So if your key was stale, you know the prod system would refresh it, and eventually that change would propagate to your Dropbox. Eventually. Amazingly, this horror worked, but instead of a local Redis server, we were storing our secret access keys on a third-party server. Security was not amused. Redis was approved shortly after. Story 3. A time when it was kind of my fault. So this was my first time working as the site IT for a call center. I was more of the helper as my boss was the guy with all the knowledge. I did what was asked and he was teaching me things about servers etc. And one of the servers needed to be restarted after we completed so work on it. I can't remember exactly what we had done to it. It wasn't the main AD server, it was used for other functions including the security door function, one of which was on the server room door. I completed the work, and it was time to restart it. Well, I hit restart. I was in our office connected remotely. We waited for the server to come back up. We noticed it was taking a long time, so we went to the door and our badges didn't work. The server never started back up, so here we were locked out of our server room and also the main doors of the center would not open by swipes. There was an emergency release for those. So, in order to get into the server room, we had to remove the swipe from the wall and get one of the girls from QA to slide her tiny hands through the wall and hit the release on the other side. Well, the next time, we had to restart that server. The door was propped open. Story 4. Don't let him sell you a new PC. I was an on-site tech doing warranty repairs for a big tech company. My only job was to fix things. There was this one time I was sent to an AIO system that would not boot. I was given a mainboard and a HDD together with a non-specific error description. If one was on the job for as long as I was, one could read between the lines that the customer was not very cooperative. As I arrived, I was greeted by a very grumpy manager that led me to the device. Take to the device was an A3 paper. Big letters spelled out an important message to me and the staff. HDD double red underline is slash underline defective. Don't let him sell you a new PC. I am tech, not salesperson. Of course, I check the device first. Device starts booting, blue screens to inaccessible boot device. Great. To BIOS I go, correct the RAID setting, reboot to Windows and call the manager to check the repaired device. I was petty enough to leave a note on the other side of the A3 sheet. HDDs works perfectly. BIOS settings corrected. No need to buy a new device.